The message came without warning, cold and final. We think it's best you take a step back from this family. Evelyn Cole did not blink. For a brief second, the world narrowed to the glow of her phone screen, the words burning into her as if they had weight. Then another notification appeared, sliding in with quiet cruelty. A photo. Her mother smiling under warm lights. Her father raising a glass. Vanessa laughing, radiant, effortless. A birthday dinner. Perfect. Complete. Without her. Evelyn's fingers tightened around the phone, but her face remained still. Years of control did not break easily. Not now. Not for this. She inhaled slowly, steady, measured, as if calming someone else's storm instead of her own. She did not call. She did not reply. She opened her laptop. The apartment around her was silent, high above the city, glass walls reflecting a version of her life that most people would envy. Clean lines. Expensive simplicity. Everything earned, nothing given. Yet in that moment, none of it mattered. The only thing that mattered was what had just been taken from her, or more precisely, what had just been revealed. They had not pushed her away. They had removed her. Her mind moved backward, not in chaos, but in sharp, precise flashes. Vanessa laughing as their mother praised her latest idea. Their father dismissing Evelyn's long nights with a distracted nod. The endless requests, always wrapped in softness, always ending the same way. Just this once. Just for now. You understand, Evelyn. She had understood. Too well. She had paid the mortgage. Covered the bills. Funded the lifestyle that allowed them to live as if nothing had ever changed. While her father's business quietly declined. While Vanessa drifted from one dream to another. While her mother held on to appearances like oxygen. And Evelyn? She became the invisible foundation. The one no one saw, but everyone stood on. Her screen came alive as she logged into the accounts. Numbers appeared, familiar, obedient. Transfers. Patterns. Years of quiet support, stacked neatly into lines of data. Hundreds of thousands of dollars moving without acknowledgement. Without gratitude. Without end. Her phone buzzed again. Vanessa. So you were just going to ignore this? Evelyn stared at the message. For a moment, something fragile flickered inside her. The old instinct. Fix it. Explain. Apologize for something she had not done. Then another voice surfaced, clear and unshaken. Daniel Brooks, sitting across from her days earlier, watching her with unsettling certainty. They do not see you, Evelyn. They see what you provide. The moment that stops, everything changes. She had resisted him then. Defended them. Held on to something that felt like loyalty but now tasted like denial. Now, the truth stood in front of her, undeniable. They had already chosen. She closed Vanessa's message without replying. Her fingers moved across the keyboard, slow at first, then faster. Precise. Controlled. No hesitation. Permissions shifted. Access narrowed. The quiet system she had built and maintained for years began to change shape under her command. Not out of anger. Out of clarity. Across town, they were still celebrating. Glasses clinking. Music rising. Laughter filling a space she had once believed she belonged to. They had no idea that the structure holding that world together had already begun to move. Evelyn leaned back slightly, her eyes fixed on the screen, on the architecture of everything they had taken for granted. For the first time, she saw it without illusion. She was never just part of the family. She was the one sustaining it. They wanted space, she whispered softly, her voice calm, almost detached. A pause. Her reflection stared back at her from the glass, not broken, not lost, but finally seen. I will give them space. Her gaze hardened, not with anger, but with something far more dangerous. Resolve. More than they know how to survive. By the time Evelyn was 10, she had already learned the rules of the house without anyone ever explaining them. Vanessa was the center, and everything else adjusted around her. If Vanessa wanted something, it appeared. A new dress, a spontaneous trip, another idea that needed funding. Their mother would smile, indulgent and proud, calling it creativity. Their father would nod with quiet approval, as if Vanessa's every impulse carried hidden brilliance. The world bent gently in her direction. Evelyn learned early that hers did not. She did not ask for much. Not because she did not need anything, but because she understood the cost of asking. She spent long afternoons studying alone, solving problems no one noticed, building discipline no one praised. When she needed books, she found a way. When something broke, she fixed it. When she struggled, she stayed silent. It became second nature. Then expectation. Then identity. Years passed, and while Vanessa floated from one passion to another, Evelyn built something real. She worked through exhaustion, through doubt, through nights that blurred into mornings. When her company finally took shape, when the risks began to pay off, she allowed herself a small, quiet hope. Maybe now they would see her. Maybe now she would matter. But success did not change the rules. It only made them clearer. "Evelyn, can you take care of this for now?" her mother would say, voice soft, almost apologetic. "A bill. A payment. Something temporary. Always temporary." Her father's tone was different. Practical. Certain. "You understand finances better than we do. It makes sense for you to handle it." Makes sense. Vanessa never asked directly. She did not need to. Her needs arrived through their mother, wrapped in concern, framed as support. Rent. Travel. Another project that required backing. Evelyn transferred the money without hesitation, because somewhere deep inside, she still believed it meant something. Last year alone, the total had crossed $200,000. She remembered the moment she noticed it, late at night, the number sitting quietly on her screen. It did not shock her. What unsettled her was how normal it felt. That same week, Vanessa posted photos from a beachside getaway, sunlight catching her hair, captions about freedom and living fully. Hundreds of comments praised her life, her courage, her spirit. Evelyn had paid for that trip. No one mentioned it. There was one memory that never quite faded, no matter how far she tried to bury it. Early in her career, before everything stabilized, she had needed help. Just a small amount to get through a difficult stretch. She had asked her father, carefully, respectfully. He hesitated. Said he needed to check. Weeks later, Vanessa arrived in a new car. Effortless. Celebrated. Evelyn never brought it up again. Instead, she worked harder. Built more. Gave more. Because the belief remained, quiet but persistent. If she just did enough, they would eventually see her not as the reliable one, not as the solution, but as someone worth choosing. That belief began to fracture the day Daniel spoke. They were sitting in a quiet restaurant, the kind where conversations stayed low and measured. Evelyn had been explaining everything, the expenses, the patterns, the way responsibility seemed to flow toward her without question. Daniel listened without interruption. When she finished, he leaned forward slightly, his expression calm but firm. "You are not helping them," he said. "You are holding up their entire life." Evelyn exhaled softly, a faint smile touching her lips. "It is family. That is what you do." Daniel shook his head slowly. "No. That is what you do when no one ever tells you to stop." The words settled into her, uncomfortable and persistent. She tried to dismiss them, to protect the version of her family she had held on to for so long. But once heard, they refused to disappear. They followed her home. Lingered in the background of every transaction, every request, every quiet expectation. And now, after that message, after seeing a celebration she was deliberately excluded from, those words no longer felt like an outside opinion. They felt like a truth she had been avoiding. Evelyn sat alone that night, the silence around her no longer empty, but revealing. For the first time, she allowed herself to ask a question she had spent years avoiding. If she stopped giving, what would be left of them? The answer, though she did not say it out loud, was already beginning to take shape. The night everything broke did not begin with conflict. It began with perfection. Soft light spilled across the dining room, reflecting off crystal glasses and polished wood. The table was set with care, every detail arranged as if it belonged in a magazine. Margaret moved gracefully between the chairs, adjusting things that did not need adjusting. Richard stood near the window, calm and composed, the picture of control. Vanessa sat already, scrolling through her phone, her expression relaxed, untouched by anything outside her own world. Evelyn stepped in quietly. "Glad you could make it," Margaret said, her smile warm, but something behind it felt rehearsed. Evelyn nodded and took her seat. For a moment, everything felt almost normal. Almost. Dinner began with small talk. Safe topics. Surface-level conversation that moved easily but meant nothing. Evelyn answered when spoken to, her voice steady, her posture composed. Beneath that calm, something was shifting. Not chaos. Not confusion. Clarity. It started, as it always did, with Richard. He set his glass down slowly, the sound soft but deliberate. "We need to discuss the house." Evelyn's hand paused mid-motion. "The renovation is exceeding expectations," he continued. "We are looking at an additional $30,000 to complete it properly." There it was. Clean. Direct. Expected. Margaret leaned forward slightly, her tone gentle. "It will be good for all of us, Evelyn. It increases the value. It is for the family." For the family. Evelyn placed her fork down carefully. "I am already covering the mortgage," she said evenly. "And the maintenance." A brief silence followed. Then Vanessa let out a light laugh, finally lifting her eyes. "It is not a big deal," she said casually. "You can handle it." The words were simple. Dismissive. Familiar. Evelyn turned her gaze toward her. "That is not the point." Vanessa straightened slightly, her expression sharpening. "Then what is the point?" Before Evelyn could answer, Vanessa leaned forward, energy rising in her voice. "Actually, I have something better." She smiled, confident, almost excited. "I am launching my own fashion brand. High-end. Direct to consumer. It is going to be huge." Evelyn felt the shift immediately. The pattern unfolding again, but this time, she saw it clearly. "I need around $80,000 to get started," Vanessa continued. "Production, marketing, initial launch. You understand how this works?" Evelyn stared at her, silent for a moment. "Do you have a plan?" she asked finally, her tone calm. "Financial projections? Supply chain? Risk analysis?" Vanessa's smile faded. "I have been researching." "That is not the same as building a business," Evelyn replied. "You just do not believe in me," Vanessa snapped, her voice rising. Margaret's expression changed instantly, protective and sharp. "Evelyn, that is unfair. Your sister is trying to build something for herself." Richard nodded, his voice firm now. "You should be supporting her, not questioning everything." Evelyn felt the pressure tighten around her, familiar and suffocating. The same expectations. The same assumptions. But something inside her did not bend this time. "I am not questioning everything," she said, her voice controlled. "I am being realistic. This is a high-risk decision." "Money is not a problem for you," Vanessa shot back. "You act like it is some kind of sacrifice." The room went quiet. Evelyn leaned back slowly, her eyes steady. "It is not about the money," she said. "It is about responsibility." Vanessa scoffed, crossing her arms. No. It is about control. You always need to control everything. Margaret's voice turned cold. You have changed, Evelyn. You used to care about this family. Richard added, his tone final, heavy. We gave you everything. And now you cannot even support your own sister. The words landed, but they did not break her. Instead, they revealed everything. Evelyn looked at them, really looked this time. The expectations. The entitlement. The quiet certainty that she would always say yes. You gave me everything, she repeated softly. No one answered. Years of silence rose within her, not as emotion, but as truth. The nights she worked alone. The money that disappeared without acknowledgement. The moments she needed support and received hesitation instead. I have been supporting this family for years, she said, her voice low but steady. I am not a solution. I am not a resource. Vanessa rolled her eyes, leaning back with a smirk. You are unbelievable. Margaret shook her head, disappointment clear. I do not recognize you anymore. Richard said nothing. He simply looked at her, measuring, distant. That look said everything. Evelyn stood. The chair moved slightly, a small sound in a suddenly silent room. This was not a conversation, she said calmly. It was an expectation. She turned and walked toward the door. No one stopped her. No one called her name. Behind her, the table remained perfect. Untouched. As if nothing had happened. As if she had never mattered. Outside, the night air was cool, grounding. Evelyn paused for a moment, breathing it in slowly. That was not dinner, she murmured, her voice quiet but certain. A pause. That was the truth. Evelyn did not cry that night. She did not pace, did not replay the argument over and over like she once would have. Instead, she sat in stillness, the city lights stretching endlessly beyond her window, her reflection faint against the glass. For the first time, the silence did not feel empty. It felt honest. By morning, the decision was already made. Daniel Brooks did not ask why when she walked into his office. He only studied her for a moment, then nodded, as if something long expected had finally arrived. You are ready, he said. Evelyn sat across from him, posture straight, expression calm. I am done, she replied. Daniel slid a stack of documents across the table. Then we do this correctly. No emotion. Only structure. Evelyn glanced down at the papers. Years of financial architecture, carefully built, quietly maintained. The family trust. Shared accounts. Properties. Every system that had allowed her family to live comfortably without ever asking where that comfort came from. You understand what happens after this, Daniel added. There is no halfway. Evelyn's gaze lifted, steady and clear. There never was. The first move was silent. She transferred control of the family trust to an independent firm. Layers of oversight replaced her direct access, locking the system behind formal boundaries. No more informal withdrawals. No more quiet approvals. What once moved effortlessly now required accountability. The second move was immediate. All outgoing transfers stopped. Mortgage payments. Utility bills. Vanessa's monthly support. Subscriptions. Memberships. Every automatic flow that had sustained their lifestyle was cut with a few deliberate commands. No warning. No explanation. Just absence where there had always been provision. The third move was final. Evelyn initiated the process to sell her share of the family's vacation property. The house her parents used to present their image to the world. The house she had quietly funded for years. Legal confirmations were clear. Her portion was hers to move. Daniel reviewed every step, ensuring precision. No gaps. No vulnerabilities. By late evening, everything was complete. Evelyn closed her laptop slowly, her hands resting on the desk for a moment longer than necessary. The air felt different. Not lighter. Not yet. But clearer. Then her phone lit up. One call. Then another. Then several more, rapid and overlapping. Margaret. Richard. Vanessa. Names flashing across the screen with growing urgency. Evelyn watched them. She did not answer. Messages followed. "Evelyn, what is happening?" from Margaret, her tone already strained. "Call me immediately," from Richard, sharp and controlled. Then Vanessa. "Are you serious right now?" The messages multiplied, each one more frantic than the last. "You cannot just cut everything off. We need to talk. This is not acceptable." Evelyn placed the phone face down on the table. The vibration continued, a steady hum that filled the quiet room but did not reach her. Hours passed. By early morning, the missed calls had stacked high, voicemails layered one over another. She played one. Richard's voice, tight with restrained anger. "Fix this. Now." Another. Margaret, softer, almost pleading. "We do not understand. Please, Evelyn." Another. Vanessa, sharp and unfiltered. "You are ruining everything." Evelyn stopped the playback. Across town, the impact was already unfolding. Payments that did not go through. Accounts that no longer responded. Access denied where it had always been open. The invisible system they relied on had not weakened. It had disappeared. Vanessa reacted first, as expected. Not privately, but publicly. A carefully worded post appeared, speaking of betrayal, of success-changing people, of a sister who had abandoned her. Family. The response was immediate. Sympathy. Support. Judgment from people who knew nothing of the truth. Evelyn saw it. For a moment, the old instinct surfaced again. Explain. Defend. Correct the narrative. Then it faded. Daniel's words returned, calm and unwavering. No emotion. Only structure. Evelyn turned off her screen. She leaned back in her chair, the quiet around her no longer heavy, but solid. For years, she had been the foundation no one acknowledged. Now that foundation was gone, and the cracks were already visible. They had believed she was part of their world. They had never realized she was the one holding it together. And now, for the first time, they were about to learn what it meant to stand without her. 3 months later, the silence no longer felt sharp. It felt deserved. Evelyn stood by the window as morning light stretched slowly across her apartment, soft and steady, filling the space without asking permission. The city below moved in quiet rhythm, distant and alive, but no longer pressing against her. There were no missed calls waiting. No messages demanding explanations. No expectations hanging in the air. Just space. At first, that space had been unfamiliar. Almost unsettling. Now, it felt like something she had been denied for years. She had not heard from them directly. Not anymore. But news has a way of finding its path, especially when a life built on appearances begins to fracture. The house was the first sign. The large home her parents once held onto so tightly, filled with polished surfaces and carefully constructed image, had been sold. Not by choice. By necessity. The price was lower than expected, rushed, negotiated under pressure. The symbol they had relied on was gone, replaced by something smaller, quieter, more real. Margaret's world shifted with it. The gathering stopped. The photos disappeared. The effortless presence she once maintained faded slowly, like a performance no longer supported by its stage. Richard adapted differently. Where confidence once defined him, there was now restraint. Conversations became shorter. Movements more measured. The man who once operated through projection now moved within limits he could not ignore. Vanessa changed in a way Evelyn had not expected. She took a job. Not something glamorous. Not something that attracted attention. A retail position, long hours, structured routine, real responsibility. For the first time, effort and outcome were directly connected. There was no safety net. No quiet transfer covering the difference. Evelyn had heard she showed up every day. That she was learning. That she was trying. It did not erase the past. But it revealed something that had never been required of her before. There had been messages, in the beginning. Waves of them. Anger, confusion, blame. Then something softer. Margaret asking if they could talk. Richard framing it as resolution. Vanessa, shorter now, less certain, though never fully apologetic. Evelyn read every message. She answered none. Not because she wanted to punish them. Not because she wanted them to suffer. But because she finally understood something she had resisted for years. Returning would not fix anything. It would rebuild the same structure, just with different words. And she was no longer willing to live inside it. Her own life had shifted in quiet but undeniable ways. Work felt different. Not heavier, not lighter, simply hers. She expanded carefully, without the constant drain pulling at the edges. She mentored others, spoke with clarity she did not have before, not just about business, but about boundaries. Outside of work, she built something she had never truly had. A life that did not revolve around being needed. Morning runs under open skies. Evenings that ended in silence, not obligation. Conversations where she was seen, not measured by what she provided. Time that belonged entirely to her. For the first time, she was not trying to prove anything. She was simply living. Standing there, watching the light settle across the horizon, Evelyn let the past rest where it belonged. Not erased. Not forgotten. But understood. She had not lost her family. She had lost the role they had given her. And in doing that, she had found herself. Her phone rested quietly behind her. No urgency. No demand. Just an object, no longer a tether. Evelyn took a slow breath, steady and full. If you have ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect, she said softly, her voice calm, grounded, then you already know how heavy that choice can feel. A pause. But you also know what happens when you finally make it. She turned slightly, the light catching in her eyes, clear and unwavering. If this story resonates with you, share it. Someone out there may need to hear it. Another pause, quieter now, but certain. And if you believe in choosing yourself, even when it is difficult, stay with us. This is still Waters Payback.